What is going on, irregulars? Welcome back on another Thursday. It's your boy, Bobby.
And Katie.
Caitlin, welcome back.
Thank you. You too, Bobby.
It's been a week, huh?
It has been a week. I feel like it's been 3 months, but it's been like 4 days since we've sat down on this microphone.
I know. And it's like, God damn, like, how much more do we do? You know, like, we do a lot.
But we love it.
Yes, we do a lot.
Yeah.
And I just want to commend you for that real quick.
Right back at you. You are like the person that keeps me going because I'm a procrastinator, number one. But I'd probably be sleeping a lot more and recording a lot less if it weren't for you. So thanks.
I appreciate that. I do it because I'm like, damn, she like came onto the show. She's like way better than I am. So like I have to keep going. So
well, thank you. But I think it's a team effort. We're both great.
Can we high five? Air five.
Virtual high five. Virtual. Wow. See, I'm tired, guys. So Bobby, how are you?
Good. I just want to speak to a little bit of like what you spoke to last week. As most of you know who follow our personal Instagram pages and our podcast page.
And if you don't, you fucking should.
What she said.
Always plug.
And we had a really big opportunity for the podcast to have a really killer episode that we are going to be releasing for you guys very shortly. But I do want to say that Caitlin had mentioned last week about how all these people are like now slowly starting to reach out, right? And they're like, hey, I have this, or you guys should talk about that. And we posted like a bunch of teasers and stuff like that recently for this big episode that we're going to release for you guys. And I got more DMs or text messages in the first 48 hours after posting those teasers from people who are like, I have a story I want to tell, or you guys should talk about this, or find someone who can speak to this. And I'm like, yes, this is what we want.
It's perfect.
This is exactly what we want. And I feel like that opportunity that we got this past Sunday to record with, you know, this special guest that we're going to have on, really kind of opened the door for people to be like, okay, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And I want to commend you, Caitlin, for it. But I also just want to commend the podcast and our listeners as a whole.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that's really fucking cool.
I think it's great that people that we haven't spoken to in quite a while, because it is, most of them are people that we both know mutually. It started out like our best friends, our family, all that kind of stuff. But we've reconnected with people that we haven't hung out with or seen in almost a decade. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah. It's like, I haven't seen you in 10 years. Let's talk about some really deep shit.
Yeah, like that thing that changed your life and really just kind of fucked you up and made you stronger. Let's talk about it. By the way, let's record it.
Let's record it. And nice seeing you for the first time in 10 years, you know?
But with that said, like the people that have come on the show and opened up, we're blown away. Like the strength that it takes, number one, to open up is so huge. And we're so thankful for those guests who are willing to do that and those that are impacted by listening to it. I don't think you guys realize the feedback that we get is
huge.
And that's...
we spoke about it before we hopped on the mic here. Brittany's episode. What was that, 29? Was that 29? So. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. The amount of people that hit me up and were like, Jesus, that story was crazy.
Yeah, that girl
and I'm like,
is strong.
Yeah, like so many people reached out. And I was like, yeah, this is like, it's just really cool to seeing like a lot of the hard work that Caitlin and I are putting in for this platform is really starting to cultivate into some pretty powerful stuff.
And it's impactful. That's the biggest thing, is like the people that will reach out and just say, hey, I don't know Shannon personally, who shared about eating disorders, but so many people reached out and said, thank you for talking about this. And they didn't have to go into detail and say, you know, I struggled too, but people that would just say, hey, thanks for talking about this. To me, that means like they needed to hear that and it was helpful for them.
They took something from the episode. They learned something, or they felt something was therapeutic, or whatever value that you find into it or into the episode. You know, people are finding that more and more and more as we keep going. So long and the short, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And please continue to reach out. We're always looking for guests. It makes our lives a lot easier. You guys, you know, we have some things that we like to talk about and we have some grand ideas, but we always say the best episodes come from those who reach out to us and say, hey, I want to talk about this.
Yeah, it makes the conversation just like a lot easier, because I feel like if we plan something, we're like, hey, I would really like to talk about this, which is great. It's a great topic and great idea. but I feel like we kind of have a predestined plan
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
episode, as opposed to when someone's like, "Hey, I got this wild story," and you're like, "Okay, let's go into it a little blind, little education. We need a little education,
Mhm.
but let's all go into it mostly blind. Let's figure it out." And then we go, and they wind up being the best conversations.
Yeah, and then both of us sit there like, holy
you're
shit.
like,
the
I thought
entire
I was
episode.
fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, so like it just it makes our job easier, which makes you guys listening to the podcast a heck of a lot easier because we can make more content for you. But honestly, I think it's beneficial to other people
Mhm.
a lot more than it is to Caitlin and I.
Yeah.
So again, thank you.
And please keep reaching out. We're looking for you.
Yeah.
So this past weekend, oh my gosh, we did something so cool. And Bobby touched on it a little bit. We were going to try and keep it a secret and not let you guys know what it was, but we are way too impulsive to do that.
Yeah, no.
So Bobby, tell 'em, who do we interview? What do we have coming up?
So, in a couple weeks, we are going to be talking about mental health and a gym that was started by the frontman of August Burns Red, which has been one of my favorite bands since 2003. And the frontman now joined in 2006. His name is Jake Lors. Jake Lors had cultivated a spiritual trainer, essentially, from South Carolina to help basically build this gym the way that he sees it out as this mental and physical health gym. His name is Joel Chandler. A lot of you who do follow my personal page will see that I have been going to this gym a lot. And basically, we just wanted to know what that's like, what that looks like, and how that ties into Jake's nonprofit, which is called Heart Support, which is about mental health and other things. So it's going to be a killer episode.
It's awesome. Every expectation that we had going into that was surpassed. Like, we had a great crew with us there. It was a traveling podcast, which was a really cool experience. And we're just so excited to get it off the ground and to kick off Mental Health Awareness Month in May with that episode. So stay tuned. It will be a good one.
Yes, definitely. But on that note, speaking of people who, haven't talked to in 10 years or whatever, and a lot of our stuff, has normally been best friends, let's welcome my best friend. We talk about Wagner a lot. Wagner's a homie. We'll get Wagner on here eventually. But I have two best friends, Wagner, and then my buddy Mike from Utah, who I've mentioned on the podcast before. And Mike is actually in town, so what better time to get Mike on the podcast?
To get Mike on the mic.
To get Mike on the mic. So, on that note, Mike, what is going on, brother?
Dude, this is really exciting. Thank you guys for having me on here. I feel like I have a lot to say for this episode, so I'm just really fortunate to be here, be healthy during this whole pandemic, and maybe share some really good ideas to anyone that's listening or any kind of support that anyone needs for what we're going to talk about.
Right. So let's just get into it. Mike, you are how old?
I'll be 30 in probably 3 weeks.
Caitlin, you should know this. Mike and I have the same birthday.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
have the
trying to
same.
play along for the listeners. I know that. So the man's almost 30 years old, very good looking, beautiful eyes. We have more
Thank
to
you.
get into this, me complimenting him in a bit. But Mike is a gay man who is recently, you've come out within the last 10 years, correct?
Yes, I officially came out when I was 23.
Okay. So we're just going to get into what Mike's experience was like coming out and then just some of life as a gay man and what that looks like today and, go from there.
It's a journey.
Yeah,
It's a
it
journey.
is.
Mike's gonna take us through his journey. So like I had mentioned, Mike's been my best friend since we were 9, I believe.
Yeah, I remember the day because I'm crazy. So
Oh, I can't wait on Instagram. We're going to throw up some throwback pictures of you guys as like little kids. Oh, I'm pumped.
I know. I hope we do. I don't know where those could be. Maybe,
We'll find them.
Maybe Zanga.
Oh my gosh! Do not. If you find my Xanga, please fucking just light your computer on fire.
I will post the link in the bio, guys.
Oh jeez. Do you remember? You remember the day?
Yeah, it was 4th grade. I just moved down the street, but it crossed over to a different elementary school. And
Yeah.
you and I were sitting next to each other in the front row. We had to do some partner exercise. And I remember you just being really weird. And it was
Thank
kind
you.
of, and it was once we found out, I think it was when we found out we had the same birthday. That was it since then.
Yeah.
We just had a lot of similarities. And since then we just got really close and just were basically blood brothers since then.
You
So,
guys have the same birthday as my college boyfriend. Did you know that?
that's crazy.
just figured
Seems
that
like
out a
such a
couple days
popular
ago.
date.
Yeah, it's so funny too because like me and Mike always talk about how we're long lost twins, and
Mhm.
it's really weird how Mike and I are the exact same person. When we're the same about something, it's identical. When we are opposite of something, we couldn't be further opposite from each other.
For example.
For example, I like girls. Mike likes guys. So, and I didn't know this. You know what I mean? I didn't know this.
Well, I didn't either. Should we just get into it quickly before we start?
Yeah, tell them.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Mike, who is your senior prom date?
You.
Right. So you guys will see Mike's a good looking dude, right? And like I was one of those assholes in high school that was like, I'm gonna go to every single prom that we have every single year. I went to ninth grade formal 3 times. I went to sophomore dance 3 times. I went to junior prom twice, senior prom 4 times, winter ball every single year. So this is my goal. But not only that, like a hot guy wanted to go with me. I'm like, fuck yes, this is a double win. Like I'm going to a prom and like this dude's hot. And also like we were kind of all friends at that point. So I was like, what? It's a great group. Like what a win. I'm going to bang my date because it's prom. Like why would I not? Right. So, and I looked really good at that prom. I'm not going to lie to you.
You
Like
really
that.
did. No, you were.
Of all my proms, like that was one of my top, I would say probably 3. Top
Wow.
3 looks. Shout out to Chelsea Stovers, lent me her dress. It took me a year to give it back to her. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was Dana. Anyway, I digress. I tried to sleep with Mike.
Aggressively.
Yeah, it was very obvious.
And I don't think it was like, I think this was an ongoing thing because once you denied me after prom, like I tried again at senior week
Mhm.
and then probably up until you came out.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, like I got a text from one of my friends who was like, yo, Mike has a boyfriend. I'm like, yes, thank God. Yes, it's not me. It was just that I don't have a dick. Like that was it. It wasn't me. Of course it wasn't me. It was that I don't have a penis.
I know. I just
So-
wanted to take you shopping, maybe, not have
Oh,
sex.
God. And if only I'd known that then, like shit. But that was like one of those ego blows to me. That was like, I don't get it. He wants to hang out with me. Like he took me to prom. Like we've hung out plenty of times since. He never doesn't answer my texts. Like what the fuck? And there it is.
Yeah, it was a rough time, I would have to say, you know, like having that social pressure to, you know, I found you very attractive and I thought, okay, if I force the straight mentality as my sexuality, like maybe this will change. It's just that when the thought was easy and then when you were physically in the situation that you were in front of me, you're in the car with me, and it was clearly obvious that yes, we should be having sex later.
Yeah.
And I knew that in high school where your reputation is so fragile
Mhm.
that if I could not get up for you,
Oh.
it would be the end of my reputation, or I would feel like so embarrassed, or people would make fun of me. You know, guys rag on each other, like, oh, what's up, cock block, or like
Yeah.
soft dick, or
Mhm.
whatever
Yeah.
you would say. And
Oh, I didn't think about
yeah,
that.
and it's kind of like,
I mean, 100% in high school, I would have made fun of you.
oh, no shit. Yeah, we
Without a
talked
doubt.
about that before.
Well, and I remember thinking at the time too, like, because we were always like, your group was the most fun group to hang out with. I'll say this, and we'll get into that a little bit because I think that plays a role in your whole journey. But I remember thinking like, I loved hanging out with you guys. You were so fun, and then we always had a great friendship. And then prom comes, and I'm like, this dude's like fucking ignoring me. Like, why does I don't understand. Like, what did I do? Like, I look good. Like, now I get it. Because you're like, I have to fuck her. I don't know what to do. Oh my god.
Yeah, like the anxiety that night was intense.
Oh, I'm
and you know, but
sorry.
I had a blast. You know, you were so much fun. You were my perfect beard.
Oh, thank you. I should put that in my Tinder profile.
Right? I'm a good beard.
Oh my god.
but it
Bobby
was-
has a perfect beard. I am the perfect beard.
Oh jeez. Oh Jesus.
But no, it was a good night. It was memorable. It was perfect. I thought, you know, and obviously at the end of the night, that was just where I didn't know what to do. Like I really didn't know what to do. I couldn't
Oh.
tell you. I couldn't, and I also was denying it myself. So it was
Oh.
kind of like I knew I was attracted to men since probably 7 or 6 we can go into in another
Yeah.
conversation, but I just remember being at that point at 17, 18 years old, it's just fighting out of your throat. It's
Yeah.
right there. Like the more you wait, the stronger it was fighting you. And so it was just difficult for me to like, what do I do now? Now I have her in my car and there's no friends around for me to like excuse something. We're not drunk. I'm driving. Like I can't be like, oh, I'm drunk. I can't have sex. You know, it's just one of those
Yeah.
situations where I'm like, I'm literally at a crossroad
I'm
here.
pushed into this corner.
Yeah, I'm in a
Yeah.
corner and
Well, we
I have
didn't-
no way of escaping this, and she's gonna be hurting and she's gonna cry, and it's
Aw.
my fault, like
Well, if it's of
and-
any consolation, we didn't hang out afterwards,
no.
and I just slept with a different one of Bobby's friends.
Oh, there we- yeah, you
Jesus.
see, like when there's a will, you get there's always, it worked out.
Oh my God! All right, so let's rewind.
Mhm.
Talk us through, I guess, high school, or I guess just when you started, realizing, which was 7 or 8, you said.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't really talk to too many people about it because it sounds really weird. I first realized that something was different about me when I went to Disney World as a vacation. I was 7 years old, and we went to Blizzard Beach, and we had to go to the men's locker room. And I will never forget when I walked in, I was like super attracted to these like naked adult men that are like 40 years old or older. And I was 7, so it's kind of weird. A 7-year-old's like, dang, like that's hot to me. Like it's doing something to me as a 7-year-old, and I don't like it because if my dad sees me looking, he's gonna be like, "What are you doing? Stop! What are you doing?"
Well, can I pause here and
Yeah.
ask Bobby a question about this because I'm interested. At 7 or 8 years old, did you have similar feelings about women?
Yeah, I used to steal my mom's Victoria's Secret magazines.
Okay, because I don't remember thinking
So what Mike was doing with men internally, I was doing with women. Yeah.
Okay, and did you have those feelings for women as well, Mike?
No,
Okay.
I did have a period where I actually was. I think it was just because I was going through puberty.
Mhm.
Fast forwarding to. I ignored that as I was a 7-year-old. You're still like kind of really, really immature. You're just a child.
You're 7.
Yeah, it was
so-
it was right around, I think when I hit like 12 to 13 years old that I started to really like, oh no, like all I can really think about is, when I see a hot guy. And it was weird because I was never attracted to people my age, younger. It was like a gap. Like I liked dads, I don't really like to say that as a fetish.
Daddies, if you will.
Basically, or zaddies, they say,
Mhm.
and it was like, I'd hang out with a friend, go over to their house, and then I'd see their dad, and I'm like, oh my God, he's hot. And I'm like 12.
Wait,
What
I
is
love
wrong with
that.
me?
I love that.
And I'm like, damn it. Like, God damn. Like, this is really awkward for me.
I think one of the best questions that to really describe the beginning of Mike's journey, like his realization, because I remember when Mike first came out and you came down, you were living in New York at the time, and came back down to PA and visited, and we were hanging out, and I was just asking questions because my best friend, who I've known since I was 9, was like, I'm gay, and I'm like, wait, I've known you for like almost 15 years, like what the fuck,
Yeah.
And I remember like asking a question, and it's one of those things where like the way you word it, it's not how you mean it, but it's just there's no other really way to ask it. I remember I was like, yo, like, so when did you realize you were gay? And I know that's not the right question, but Mike's response was the best. He just goes, when did you realize you were straight? And I was like, touche.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just am. I'm just straight. It's as simple as that. Like, I don't know. I didn't realize it. I just am. And he's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm just gay. And I was like,
Boom.
I was
Mic
like,
drop.
yeah. Well, it was like mind blowing. I was like, oh fuck, he's right.
Yeah, it's always a
Fuck,
great way
makes
because
sense.
I mean we're just used to living in a heterosexual kind of world, and that's fine because that's kind of how we were created in a way to reproduce. And
Yeah.
so when people ask that question, a lot of people can take it offensively, like what do you mean it's not a choice? It comes off, people may interpret it as, oh, it's a choice, but no, it's just kind of just hits you when your body naturally starts to generate sexual hormones in terms of as young as 7, 8 years old, you start to kind of, oh, I have a girlfriend, people think it's cute
Yeah.
at their little kid, like, oh, little play dates, his little girlfriend, and stuff like that. And it was just like, oh, I was just immediately, since I can remember as a child, being the opposite of that spectrum.
Yeah.
And the only thing that my eyes looked at was men. But maybe at 12 or 13, going through puberty, your hormones are just everywhere. So I thought I just wanted to have sex with anything, really, and I felt like, oh, this might be my chance to be straight.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So then let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
What does high school look like?
It started getting worse.
I like how I ask these questions like I don't
I know,
fucking know
right?
the
You're
answer.
Well, I
right.
know,
You
so
what I mean?
let's go.
I guess that's where it was starting to get angrier. I'm going to call my homosexuality angry, not in terms of that it's bad, but that's what it was doing to me. It was fighting my brain. And it started to just get progressively worse. And that's when we're like 15, 16, we're dating, people are, you're getting sexually active and
Kids are losing their virginity.
Yeah. And now you got this social dynamic pressure that, okay, well, I'm not denying that I'm a handsome guy, so I know that I should be able to find women to date. Now this pressure is a new factor in my life. I was an innocent child having feelings for men, but now that we're going into a different social dynamic, it was more like now you want to have boyfriend and girlfriends. Like this is when you start dating, you're maturing, and the pressure was on. In 10th grade, it's okay. By senior year, it was like extreme. My friends would be like, yo, dude, like, guy talk. We talk about sex. We talk about women. We may lie and exaggerate how many you slept with. And I had to just like lie and in front of my own best friends just to kind of just pass on through. And
So you did tell them that you had slept with girls?
which I have.
Oh, okay.
Which was difficult. I had to be like kind of laying on my back and they just sit on it. That's the only way it would work.
Oh.
She's like, oh, I should have,
Maybe I was just too hot.
Yeah.
Well, that fits my narrative much better. We'll go with that.
Yeah. And it was more of like, how do I get away with suspicion? Now that I'm getting older, I should be dating. If I'm not dating anyone, that's when everyone knows that. If you have a guy or a girl that's not dating the opposite gender or sex, you start to question like, well, what's wrong with you? Are you asexual or something? Like what's going on?
Oh,
And
for sure.
these questions start to arise, especially with family. And Vince, my brother, was just such a hot swag man. I always had to like look up to him and try to be like him.
True.
He was
Can confirm.
Also,
Can
also,
confirm. Very
also
swaggy.
a ladies' man.
He was a very
Yeah.
ladies' man. Dude got chicks.
He did. He was one of the kind that didn't have friends in terms of like guy friends. It was more like he was always dating someone, and I was like really jealous of it because it was now causing pressure from my family side. Like, well, Vince is like constantly dating someone, and then you're like always single, always, and there's nothing like what's wrong. And so, and then if my friends are like talking about girls, like, Mike, what about you? Like, what's going on? And I would just like, okay, the best thing I got to do tonight is swag up and like make out with a chick in front of them if we go to the mall, or it's like once they can witness that I got with a girl, but it's innocent, I can kissing is easy. So it was like, cool, like now they won't bother me for about 3 more months.
Oh my gosh.
So then once 3 months comes up, it's suspicion again, and I have to like do something else. And this went on for years.
And Bobby, as his best friend, you never had any inkling whatsoever.
I don't think anybody in our grade knew.
I don't think I was floored when I found out. So no idea at all.
No, not at all. No clue. I think every girl in our grade was pretty devastated at that point as well too.
Devastated and yet oddly validated.
Like turned on by it. Yeah.
Validated if you're me, but anyway.
But yeah, I had no clue. Of course you have like the Monday morning quarterbacks. You're like, oh yeah, I knew. I'm like, yeah, you knew because you just told everybody.
Got plenty of those. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So you're hiding this from your friends, your family, everyone in high school.
Yes.
So take us to college, I guess, is the next step.
Yeah. So college comes through, and that's when I was actually kind of excited in a way, because I was like, well, maybe I can go there and not know anyone.
well, college is a fresh start for everybody.
It is.
And where did you
Start. I went to like satellite camp Penn State Berks at
Okay.
Reading. That was
Okay.
like my first 2 years, and then I transferred to the main. But the problem with me is that I am a very social like extrovert at times, so I always just go way too friendly and find way too many friends, and I'm still not out of the closet. So I kind of put myself right back into the
Right.
spot where I
Mhm.
was in high
Mhm.
school, where I'm like, great, now I have these great friends and they still think I'm straight. And so I'm like, what do I do?
Especially because like I've met a bunch of them. They're awesome people too. Your Penn State friends.
Mhm.
They're awesome people. But it also didn't help that like the group of friends that you became friends with, a couple of the girls were fucking hot, and they were like, "Who's that guy?" And you're like, "Oh,
And I'm like, here we
God
go again."
damn it!"
I'm like,
know.
oh no, and I
And then all the
shouldn't-
guys are like, "Dude, why aren't you hooking up with Melissa or whatever?" You know what I mean? And you're just like,
yeah, like welcome to my life. Like
Oh
that was
my
just that
gosh.
was the worst, because it's not sounding pretentious or conceited. It was just like, why can't you be attracted to my friends? Like, why did they always come to me? And I think it was just because I just presented myself very confidently. I'm an old soul. I come off very mature. I went through puberty basically when I was like 7. So like, I mean, I've been just somewhere else out of the generation than a lot of people mentally. And I don't know what it was. It just like, I wasn't trying to. I'm like, maybe I'll just make myself look really ugly, so that way
Oh.
like no one would want to talk to me, and then it ends up being like the only girl that's there at this party, because you know every time at Penn State you go to a party it's like 99% guys, and
Well, there's also something attractive about a man that's not trying to fuck you.
that's what made it worse. It was like, where do I go? I'm
well,
not trying. It makes it worse.
Because it's like you want to talk to them because number one, like it's a little bit of a challenge, which is intriguing. But number two, like if you're just not trying to get like hit on all night long, the person that's not trying to hit on you, like thank God, some fucking breathing room.
Yeah.
So you trapped yourself worse.
I
with that
did.
one.
It was almost like I'm digging this hole even more
Mhm.
because now I'm not, you know, I actually dated this girl in college. I was like, you know what? Let me give this another shot. This is like attempt number 10 for a girlfriend. And
So you did have girlfriends.
I did, yes. And you know, I feel really bad. I reached out to them. We'll fast forward to
Aw.
that, but you know, I reached out once I came out to apologize for just if they were ever mentally confused why I was not putting out as normal guys do.
So that
And,
was your relationships looked like that? Like you had relationships that you weren't having sex in? Like
Yeah,
what
it
was
got
that?
well, they didn't last long because it would be like, okay, I'd somehow like weirdly swag them up, and then they loved it because I was different, because I wasn't like a typical guy when it came
Mhm.
to flirting. It was more like I was just being myself and kind
Mhm.
of oblivious to the situation. And they would be like attracted to that, and that's what like you were saying. And so I'm like, great, you know, I met this girl. She's a really, really pretty girl, sweet, blonde. Like that was like somehow my type as a, I guess you would say, a straight man. Like I always
I
found
used to be blonde, guys.
it,
Just so
she
we're
was
clear.
blonde at the prom. So
Oh.
clearly there's a pattern here. And I we dated for a little bit, and I just like there was never chemistry. It's just it
How long
sucked.
is a little bit?
Like a couple months. This one
Okay.
was like we were talking and like kind of like hooking up like drunk style on the side of a dirty ass frat basement, like
Hot.
you know, like
We've all been there.
Been there. I was just gonna say, been there.
yeah, and like you know, we would have those for a couple months, and then finally, like the pressure of her girlfriends with the pressure of my friends were like, "How are you not dating yet? Like you guys have been kind of like hooking up and stuff for a while." So I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So I pulled the trigger and was like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" But let's
Mm.
do this. And so I asked her like, "Hey, I kind of want to take this up to the next level. I really like you, and you know, I would like to actually like date you." And they got so ecstatic and really excited. It made me happy because they were happy. I was almost like doing it for them and not me. And like when the sex came up, oh my god, like my friends could tell some funny stories of me trying to hide. Like I would like hide. I would run away from parties when I knew, you know, this girlfriend that I had was like getting drunk, and she would be like, "Oh my god, like we need to fuck right now. Like let's leave and go." And I would be like, "Oh my god, what do I do?" You know, and I would just like the whole way walking home, I'm having a fucking heart
Oh.
attack. I'm like, this is the moment where like she's gonna find out I can't get up. Like, what do I do? So in college I learned a technique to go down on women as my way to not have sex. And I became a pro at it. So
Oh, brilliant.
I got
So-
really good at that because it was like the only way I could satisfy a woman with making them forget that they're not
I'm
getting.
like oddly turned on right now. This is weird. Okay.
Su-
Anyway.
But I got really good at it. So I was just like, well, this is not coming up. I'm not getting an erection. Like they're gonna be like, what the hell is it me? All this. I knew what was gonna happen to them.
You
if-
knew the
if-
consequences.
I did. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, then let me just satisfy them. I'll just say I'm too drunk. It's whiskey dick. I can't get it up. So let me just satisfy you. And they're like,
So were you like, did you enjoy eating pussy, or were you just like,
um,
indifferent to it, disgusted by it?
wasn't grossed out like a lot of gay men that I have met are like, ew, God, are you kidding me? You know, but I was like, you know what? I mean, it's kind of like
I've
kinda,
eaten worse.
Yeah, right, right. Like I kind of was just like I was neutral. I
Yeah.
didn't really feel like I was grossed out, or I wasn't really into it either. But I
Yeah.
knew that it was making them happy, and that again, I love emotions. So like I
Mm,
was like,
mhm.
it's making them happy. It's making me feel like I'm doing something good, and
Okay.
that's kind of like what I did in college. And then it was just like,
Did you ever sleep with this girl, the girlfriend?
I don't know. We never had successfully had sex. I
Aw.
tried, and it would like almost happen, and then it was like,
Mm.
like damn it, you know.
So you
and-
guys broke up, I'm assuming.
yes, you know, I ended up breaking up with her, and she was like really upset about it. And I was like, okay, now I'm kind of good. Maybe my friends saw that I dated someone. I won't tell them why, but hey, it buys me some time.
In
You
the
know?
midst of all this, were you ever considering coming out, or were you always in your head like, I'm never coming out?
I was pretty angry at myself for being attracted to men for a very long time. I went through a lot of depression. I actually never told you this, Bobby, but I was suicidal for a minute. I'm gonna get a little emotional.
That's
Uh,
okay. Do you want to talk about that at
Yeah,
all?
no, I mean, we can. It's just more like I can't believe I was at that point. That I felt like I would rather die than have to expose my true self. Like, because the thing about coming out as gay that I would love everyone right now listening to know is that it's not about the reaction of everyone hating you or being like distancing themselves from you. It's the fear of who am I? I don't even know who I am after I come out. What does that look like? So it was the fear of like, I don't really know if I cared. I would be upset that people, if they reacted negatively towards it, but it was more of like, who is gay Mike? I'm 22, 21, like before I came out, like I've molded myself as some specific person, as a reputation, some kind of soul that is like this guy. But if I come out, now I'm back to a 1-year-old. I have to
Oh.
restart who I fucking am.
It's sad that you have to think that way because you shouldn't.
I know.
You don't have to remold yourself. It's just, this is who I am, but
But it's the
obviously
first
it's a lot
time-
easier said than done. You know what I mean? You can always take people's advice, but when you're in that deep dark place, it's kind of like what Joe spoke to last week. Your mind is so powerful that it's convinced you that you have to rebrand yourself almost because of this, and it's like, no, you don't have to.
Exactly.
But it's not
Like
even
looking back on
rebranding,
it now,
though.
you're probably like, oh fuck, why did I think that way? You know what I mean? Because of ultimately we're gonna get to the end of your journey, but and where you're at now, which is
Mhm.
probably the most beautiful place that I've ever seen you be. You know what I mean? Like as a person, location, all that other, who you're with and everything. Yeah, you didn't have to, but the mind's a powerful thing in convincing you that you did.
But I think also you mean like you had been doing all of these behaviors and coping strategies that like at your root, like the person that Bobby knew, for example, like he's saying like he knows your heart, he knows who you are. That person didn't change, but the behaviors, I'm assuming like you wouldn't have to keep making out with girls. You wouldn't have to keep doing all this stuff and you spent your whole life hyper focused on that. Like when those behaviors were no longer there, like what would there be? I
What's
think
left?
that's-
What's
right.
left of me
Mhm.
at that point?
Yeah, and it was just like by the end of college, I was like kind of excited because that way I can maybe like my biggest goal in life in college was that when I graduate, I want to move the fuck away from everyone and be alone. That way, I don't have any person that knows me will never know if I can be gay, but secretly still,
Oh.
and finally have a physical interaction with a person as a man that I finally can feel what that's like getting a kiss from a guy from the first time for you, like that feeling of butterflies, like, oh my God, I kissed a guy. But I've done all of that with women, but it was all numb. Like none of it had any like chemistry at all. So it was just a show. And so like the idea that one day I will finally get to kiss a guy and without like anyone knowing, and it's gonna probably feel like I'm 14 or something, like the first time, but I'm like a excuse me, I'm like a late bloomer, everyone around me is having sex, everyone's having fun, everyone is their true selves except me. So it was kind of like, I hate myself. Like, why do I have to be the one that's gay? That's not fair. And that's how I thought. And anyone listening, obviously, disclaimer, like, don't ever feel like that, but it's very normal and valid for you to feel like that if you're still in the closet. So I just want to put that out there. It's very natural and normal.
So we finish college, we move into kind of actually something that I want to talk about earlier, which is at the point of you coming out, because it's post college, you're living on your own, you're in New York, and I actually I remember I almost caught you.
Did you know at the time?
No, I didn't know.
Oh.
So I moved him, me and Wags drove up and moved him from New York to New Jersey, to North Jersey-ish. And we went to the bar that was just like in the same parking lot as your apartment and got hammered. It was just getting hammered together. And I'm sitting there and I'm being like normal Bobby. I'm flirting with the bartender.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like swiping right on Tinder and shit, like, because I didn't care, whatever. I was there for like
A night.
I was there for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
So I was like, whatever, let's just have some fun. And I remember Mike was sitting in between Wags and I, and he kept getting these text messages, and it just said Shorty, like that was the name. And I'm like, yo, who the fuck is Shorty?
Oh my God, I shit myself.
And he was like, oh fuck. And it's so funny because like typical like guys together just drinking, at the bar, not paying attention to shit, like the stereotypical what girls think of guys, like just oblivious to everything. I was like who's Shorty? And you were like, oh, it's just some chick I met up here. She's like 5'2" and like, just some chick I've been hooking up with, so I call her Shorty. I was just like,
Shout
and,
Yeah.
and I literally was just like, sick, and just sipped my beer.
Yeah, like
I was
the conversation was over, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know how I pulled that out.
and
Like,
come
like,
to find out, that's his now husband.
Yeah.
You know
Oh
what I
my
mean?
gosh.
Yeah.
So when you found out, Bobby, you were like, that's Shorty.
Yeah, he was so
Motherfucker.
hyped. He's
So-
like, wait, that was the girl that you were saying in Poughkeepsie? And I'm
And-
like, yep, that was him.
And you're like, oh shit.
And I feel like you're like really, weirdly good at that, Bobby. Like you pick up on shit. You don't always see it through, but you pick up on shit a lot.
Yeah. So then he's there. We move him. Blah blah blah. Fast forward a little bit more, and I remember when Shorty came out to visit for the first time, and I would like to tell how you guys met, but honestly, that could be an entire episode because
it's
it's just
intense.
freaking epic. But he came out to visit, and Mike was like posting on Snapchat, and I
you
was
were in the closet or out
Still
of the closet?
in the closet.
Okay.
This was the Friday before, actually, of him coming out. I specifically remember
Mhm.
this. And me, Wags, and Tubbs actually were sitting at Wagner's house. We were getting ready to go out, and we were all just chilling on our phones watching Snapchat. And I remember looking up and seeing you and Shorty on Snapchat. And I'm like, hey guys, did you see Mike's Snapchat story? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, we kind of like looked at each other like, it's kind of gay, isn't it? Like, it's kind of, and it's funny. He wasn't kissing him. He wasn't doing anything, but there was just like this
Some vibe.
vibe. And I'm like, it's kind of gay. And they're like, yeah. And we're like, is Mike gay? We're like, no. I've seen him hook up with chicks. I've seen him fuck a chick.
I
You know
did,
what
I
I mean?
did very well, by the way, there.
Yeah. I was like, I've seen him have sex with a girl. Like, no, he's not gay. Fast forward, Sunday, Eagles played. And in the middle of the Eagles game, you posted on Facebook that you were in a relationship. And Wagner screenshotted it to me and sent it to me and goes, ? And I was like, is it with a guy? Or I was like, with a girl? And he goes, I don't know, bro. You tell me. Now, Caitlin, you know my group of friends. Mike, obviously, you know my group of friends because you're in it. I'm the asshole of the group. I'm always the one to stir the pot, or not even stir the pot, just to ask the difficult questions that most people don't want to ask. So I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to now ask my best friend since he was 9 if he's fucking gay. Because I did a little digging and I saw pictures of him out in California. And the pictures looked a little gay. And I'm like, again, not kissing, but they just looked a little gay. So I'm like, all right, how do you ask your best friend since you were 9 if he's gay? So I'm like, all right. So I screenshotted him being in a relationship, sent it to him, and I said, new girlfriend, tell me more. So I just assumed that it was a girl, but I needed him to explain it. And it took Mike about 7.5 hours to respond. And I don't know what you were doing, if you were busy or
I was in
whatnot,
bed.
or if you were like thinking about how to respond, but it took him 7.5 hours. He texted me back and goes, do you really want to know? And I was like, right then and there, I was like, he's gay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I was like, he's gay. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, bro, it's with a guy. Or you said, well, bro, it's a guy. And I think you had typed out like a really long message and then copied and pasted it like really quick, because right away I got this novel and I was like, I remember texting back and I was just like, good for you. And it was like, I hope you don't look at me differently. I hope nothing changes. Like I'm still the same person and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, I don't give a shit. And you're like, really? And I remember you were like shocked and you're like, really? And I'm like, why would I judge you for the way you love? I don't fucking care. If that makes you happy, more power to you. I couldn't suck a dick. I literally said that. I said, more power to you. I
That's
couldn't do it.
amazing.
And you were like, and I remember you were like, shit, like that's fucking crazy. Then I found out. So I told Wagner because I felt like I'm still in that position to be able to say something like that.
You were probably a good first person to find out too,
was
because of how accepting you
What's
are.
crazy
Yeah.
is actually he was the last person I wanted to tell.
Really? Well,
Mhm.
but I can also see that knowing Bobby when he was 22.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was very scared.
Yeah. So then I told Wagner, I'm like, dude, Mike's gay. He's like, are you fucking serious? And I was like, yeah, he just came out. I didn't tell you. You could go find out yourself. But like us 3 are fucking best friends. So like just whatever. Then it got out, word spread, and then everybody hit me up and not Mike.
Yeah.
Well,
Everyone's
I
like,
saw you at the gym and I asked you about it.
yeah. And everyone's like, wait, so Mike's gay? I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you ask him? takes a sip of coffee. You know what I mean? Like,
You're like his press secretary.
yeah, and I'm like,
right.
why don't you ask him? And then people are like, come on, just tell me. That's so awkward. I don't want to do that. I'm like, how the fuck do you think I felt? I had to ask him myself.
Well, and that kind of brings me back because I kind of want to bring it back to how you felt, Mike. I do want to rewind just a little bit. So you met your husband now, Shorty, right?
Mhm.
I kind of want to get into like, was he the first experience you had?
I've had one sexual encounter that obviously, like, when I was younger, I won't go into detail, but I mean, I did once, but it was brief.
Okay.
But that was like years prior. And then he was, yeah. So then otherwise, technically, yeah, he was the first like man ever in my life.
And was he had been out before that?
Yeah, he is 11 years older than me, so he was already.
So he's a Danny.
Yeah,
He's a
you know
nanny.
me. I'm always the cradle snatcher, they call it, or like the person dating
Jailbait,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, and but it was yeah, like he was the first one really. So if I didn't have him in my life at that time, we were only dating for a few months now, but it was like, okay, cool. Like I remember that day I announced it. Like I didn't even come out to anyone yet. The way I came out was posting in a relationship on Facebook. I just said fuck it, really, and I
Love
was like, you know
that.
what? Who cares? I don't give a fuck anymore. Because the way Shorty was like, Mike, don't worry. If you need to come out, you have me. And just hearing that made me be like, you know what? I don't care. Fuck everyone else. If they don't want to be my friend just because I like guys, then you're not worth my time, and you're not really my friend. And so as long as I have my new boyfriend, my first, and saying that was definitely weird because I've never,
Yeah.
I've thought, I can't believe I'm saying boyfriend. That's so weird to me. And I just remember just being like, okay, fine. So I'm like, screw it. I want to just let everyone know instead of just personally going to each person. I'm just going to throw it out there so it can go on the news, CNN or something. Like, and yeah, so I just did that. And that's when he found out. I started getting a lot of text messages from people like, oh my God, like, because they were texting him and he was like, you go to him. Why are you asking me? So then people did
I would
approach.
tell them, I'm like, guys, it's not my position to tell you.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
not. That's not
And that
my
was a
job.
good friend move.
It
by
was
you.
a
It's
very
not
good
my
friend
fucking
move.
job. You know, this is his life. If you have questions about his life, you ask him.
Yeah. So,
I commend you for that, Bobby. That was a good move.
But that was definitely a crazy day because that was the day that Alex left Shorty. That my husband's name's Alex, and that's when he went back to California because he's living in California. We're a long distance relationship. Zoom. We're like basically pre-pandemic foreshadow, dating across the entire United States for about 9 months. Like no sexual stuff either. So I'm a guy that's
Wow.
also never really had sex with a guy, and I have a long distance boyfriend.
Wow. So did he kind of? He knew that you had never been with anyone.
Yeah, his friends were like trying to get him out of it. They're
Well,
like,
that's what I would-
This is a danger, man.
Right. That's what I would assume is pretty common. Like, gay men don't want to be like the first one. You know what I mean? To kind of like train you how to be gay. I know that sounds awful to say that way,
No, it's
but you know
okay.
what I'm trying to.
No, I
what I'm
do.
trying to get at.
Yeah, it was definitely like his friends were trying to back him out. Like, dude, you got basically a gold star, but for gay. Like they call in the term of the gay community, they say gold star means a guy that's never had sex with a girl. And so, like when you're gay, so you
Mhm.
never even did that. And so they were calling it the opposite. Like, dude, you're dating someone who's never gotten with a guy before. You're an idiot. And he's
Oh.
23. Like, that's bad. You're 34 at the time. He was like, you guys, you're making a mistake. They were trying to convince him out of it, but it was just like love at first sight vibes. And I didn't care. I was like, yeah, I'm freshly out. Like, I could just be this wild guy that just whores it up for a minute and whatnot, like every other person does, either straight or gay or whatever. But I was just kind of like, no, I'm just an old soul. I always wanted the relationship, but I couldn't because I was in the closet. So like, this was my opportunity to be like, I'm out. I already have a boyfriend right away, and like, I love the death out of him, even though we're long distance. Like, I remember a lot of people finding out and like trying to hit on me or try to like, you know, have sexual encounters with me and stuff, and it was a little tough because I'm sexually starved for 9 years or so. You know what I mean? And so I'm like really ready to go, but I kept my word, my faith in terms of just being faithful to this new partner of mine. And I held out until we could figure out where are we going to move? Like, how are we going to be together? This is really difficult. I just got this job in Jersey.
Oh, this
And
is
you
such
live
a
in
beautiful
California.
love story. It sounds awful, but it's. Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, the coming out thing was definitely disappointing. I feel like I want to talk for my gay community here and just say that, you know, I am a privileged person here. and I feel for everyone that has a very difficult time coming out and where they are abandoned. And there's a very terrible homeless LGBTQ community of where their families just abandon them because they're like, you're a piece of shit, you're gay, you're a pervert. And so they just kick them out of their house at 17, 18 years old. And I had the opposite effect where that was what I was predicting. That was going to be me. And when I came out, people were almost more mad at me that I didn't come out sooner. So that was really weird, just to be like, wait, this is a huge pivotal moment for me. And I've been thinking about this pent up in my brain for like
and we
years.
like didn't give a shit.
And no one, like literally no one gave a shit. That was the weirdest feeling for me. Like, what the, I waited this fucking long.
Mhm.
Like, why? Like, I was so blessed for the fact that so many people in my life really saw the true me and realized like, holy shit, like, dude, I can't believe you. Why did you keep that so long? I feel I feel horrible. And then I felt like a lot of friends were freaking out, like going through their head, like, how many homophobic things have I said growing up? You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, you know, even my dad had to go to like almost the hospital when he found out. And it wasn't because he was upset. He was upset with himself so bad. He gave himself an anxiety attack and cried and like real, because I grew up in a very Catholic home and he was very homophobically like hateful. He would always bring up how much he hates gays. And if he ever sees one, or if my mom hung out with like a couple, he would make her shower when she got home.
Oh my goodness.
Like that's how it was back in the day. He's completely not like that anymore.
So I'm assuming that probably had a pretty big impact on you growing up.
Oh hell yeah, because me and my dad are like best friends. Like we hunt together. We went like, you know, cutting wood together. Yeah, I'm a freaking lumberjack, so I'm basically a Burley Woods guy. And like, so we were like boys, like best friends. But he was so hateful of gay people. It was like, how is he gonna react when his best friend, his son, like is gay? You know, like
Oh
what
my
is the irony in
gosh.
that?
So
And-
can I ask, like Bobby mentioned that you guys, I mean, obviously growing up, I think all of us are guilty and looking back on some of the things we used to joke about and say and being like, oh my God, that was fucked up.
Yeah.
Did those things affect you at that age when they were being joked about?
No, I actually like kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it would definitely affect a lot of other people. I tend to have grown up in a facetious culture. I guess that's East Coast. You know, we're very kind of like an asshole
Yeah.
culture where it's like, it's fun, but it's like, let me like make fun of your faults as a joke. So like, I kind of just took it as it was just normal to me.
Well, I mean, like
never...
I say it all the time. Your friends are not your friends unless they're making fun of you.
Exactly.
And if I'm not making fun of you, that is a surefire way to know
I'll
that
fuck with you.
that I don't like you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So just if I'm making fun of you, it's a term of endearment. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. And you know, it was just something that I was kind of, the thing about me was like, you just wait until adulthood. I was just patiently waiting to
Right.
get out of this whole like social norms of being a teenager and going through high school and college. Like I just kind of was already like 15 years ahead of my life, just like patiently waiting until I can finally just, yeah, let me just get through the social norms here. And once I'm out of this, then I can finally be who I am.
Right.
But I just have to wait.
So Bobby kind of talked us through his perspective of that day. So during that 7-hour interim, what were you doing?
Oh my God. I think I was just laying in bed in a fetal position, honestly. I remember that was the weekend that Alex went back home and we had a fun time in New York. That was he took me to my first gay bar. Like, come on, like
Aw.
I'm literally like 23 and having my first boyfriend and never been to a gay, like I had no gay friends. So like I was such an innocent idiot. Like when it came to the gay community, I had no history of the gay community. So he took me to Stonewall, which is the iconic bar in New York that was actually during the riots where the police would try to shut those bars down and violently hurt these gay people that were trying to find a safe haven to just, this is how you meet people. You didn't have technology and stuff. So there was like a huge riot kind of era that went down in Stonewall, New York. So he took me there. We played pool with two lesbians that kicked their ass because, you know, stereotypes are the best ever. So like, of course, the lesbians destroyed us on the pool. But it was that Sunday. I remember I got back and I had such a wonderful weekend that I had butterflies. I finally experiencing what everyone else got to do 10 years prior. And so I was just like so happy that I just said, fuck it. I posted it on Facebook and I just sat there and waited all day in bed for like comments, just people to text me, people to hit me up. Like I was just waiting for the receiving end just to be like, okay, like here we go. I hit send, like, or I hit like update on Facebook and I just sat there like really, I was sweating. I was just like in bed. He was the first one immediately, like somehow like, you know, Bobby on social media is so good and active at it that, but like 30 seconds of posting, he was already texting me that what he mentioned about, yo, girlfriend, you know? And I remember just being like, and I wrote it. I did, like he said, I wrote this whole novel or something. And then I just kind of like put my phone away and like laid on the side, listened to music and closed my eyes and just kind of like was shaking just because it was just so much like, this is the moment that I've been fearing for like since I first realized I was attracted to men. It was just like, oh my God, all of this life is coming in once, like a train. So it was just really a lot of stress and a lot of like panic. And I felt like I was going to throw up. Like there was just a lot going on.
Had you told your family yet, or was it just everybody kind of at once?
I told my mom and my sister that weekend.
Okay.
And they were definitely like shocked. Like my mom was drunk when I told her, and it was funny because I'll go back. When I told my sister was the first person in my family. She was washing dishes, and we were having an Eagles party, and she was washing the dishes, and I had just enough beer in me that I was like, "This is the moment. I'm gonna go up to her and fuck it, let's do it." And so I went. I'm like, "Hey Sarah, I'm gonna have to tell you something that's been bothering me, but just letting you know that when I tell you, I might have to go away for a while." And she goes, "You're going to prison?" Like immediately was like, "What?" Like stopped all her dishes, was like, "You're going to prison?" I'm like, "Oh wait, what? No."
Your
What?
sister, that's so your sister.
I
That's
know.
kind of where my head went too. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, you could the delivery could have been better, but
Oh, of
okay.
course. Of course. I have like no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, I want to go away for a while. And she's just like, the hell are you talking about? But I was just like, let's go out front. And then I told her right there, and she was like, no way. And I was like, yeah. She's like, I fucking knew it. But this
Aw.
she has an excuse because sisters are great.
Yeah.
They know.
Mhm.
She used to poke fun like, oh Mike, you're gonna be a hairdresser one day, because I used to like play with my mom's hair as a kid. I mean, the true gay was there
Right.
before you became corrupted by the social norms, you know.
Mhm.
And she's like, I always knew it, but I was always just whatever. Maybe he's just a sensitive man, you know. And once I came out, she was relieved, and then my mom came out side, and that was when we were in the middle of this conversation, and my mom like looked at us like she with like a white face of
She could tell like
whoa,
something intense.
something
was going-
serious is going on because the way our faces looked. And then I looked at my mom and I'm like, hey, I guess while you're out here, yeah, I'm gay. And she was just like I just straight up was like, yeah, I'm gay, Spigen. You know? And like she was like, wait, what? Like she totally was like, thought I was just fucking with her.
Mhm.
And she really didn't believe me like at all. So I was like, no, mom. Like, and Sarah's like, mom, seriously, come on, stop being like oblivious right now. And I showed her pictures of Shorty, and like I'm like, this is my boyfriend. And she was like, so you're dating too? Like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, you know, this was a lot going on right now.
Mhm.
And so like once I told her, we connected, and I remember being like, don't tell dad. Like, please, Lord, like give me a minute to think about how I'm gonna approach my best friend, you know, in terms of that. And I'm like, oh no, like this is just nervous. But then, you know, we're Italian and East Coast, so they just told him like 3 seconds later.
Nice.
After I literally told him not to. But I wasn't there when they told him. But what really broke my heart in a way of being like super blessed that we mentioned for me coming out was my dad wrote me like this huge paragraph the next day, basically apologizing. And my mom told me that he was like out back, like literally having a panic attack at the pool, and he was out there for like 3 hours just like crying. And that broke my heart, being like, I mean, it's not his fault, but I mean, maybe this was meant to happen for
Right.
him to have a son that he loves so dearly come out as gay, because he was such a hateful person. He was a huge Catholic Christian man. He has such a heart. He takes care of so many people, but then, you know, maybe this was like the nice icing on the cake for him to really see it in his way of faith and just be like, wow.
I think it just really is starting to. It was the beginning of opening your eyes that they're the closed-minded people that existed back in the day. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the boomer mentality, and before that, you know, extremely closed-minded. And I think as we grow and grow and grow and grow as a society, like we start to realize, like, oh my gosh, there is a lot more to life than what we really thought it was, outside of the church, outside of politics, outside of this, whatever the hell it is. We're like, God damn, there's a lot more. And I think that was your dad's, you know, gut check. Like, shit, I have to figure this out, because I've lived, you know, almost, you know, 40, 50, 45, 50 years this way. And everything that I've done for the last 45, 50 years is essentially wrong. And it's like, fuck,
Mhm.
like that's the same feeling that you had as far as being a 18-year-old boy thinking that you needed to reshape your brand for when you come out. That's him. He's coming out like, oh my gosh, I have to now reshape my brand. It has that same feeling of I had to reshape my brand, that I was this hateful person, or I was this person who just, I don't even want to say hateful because I don't think it's hateful. It's uneducated.
Yeah.
People just don't know. Mike, that weekend when you came home after you came out, we sat and talked for 3 hours. I literally bombarded him with, I had so many questions.
So many.
I didn't know. Nobody knows. And if you don't know, then you're ignorant to it. And that's okay to be ignorant to it. But that's why we're here on this podcast, to have these conversations. It's okay to be ignorant to something, but it's not okay to be hateful towards something. And
Right, and to live in that ignorance
and
too.
to live in it, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's not okay. And I think that was your dad's, like I said, that was his gut check to be like, fuck, I didn't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this. And now I have firsthand experience on how do I figure out more, but I don't know how to approach it because of my 40 plus years of living this lifestyle.
Exactly. But it was a blessing though, because we got even closer after that. And, it was me kind of just, I wanted to prove to my dad that I'm not different. What we discussed not on this podcast, but a previous conversation the other day was just like, I felt like I have to prove, if I come out as gay, I have to let everyone know that I'm still Mike. Like, I felt like a pressure after, just to be like, okay, like now that everyone knows I'm gay, they're, from movies on Hollywood, people perceive gay people as, super feminine, which is great. I think there's a whole spectrum on the gay, what we say, I guess homosexuality is a very big spectrum. It's very long and broad. And Hollywood really just focuses on, they need to decipher the character on the show. So if they want a gay character, they have to make them like really different from everyone else on so it's like more eccentric, outgoing, colorful, loud or something like that. And when I came out, it was like my mission. I felt that I had to prove to people that I'm still like the guy that no one knew was gay. I needed to like educate people on the fact that not everyone that is on this spectrum is what you saw on TV or the way Hollywood portrays it. They exist and they're beautiful people. And I love that true authenticity to it. But there's also guys that may come off as what you would say in quote unquote straight and super masculine, but they like men.
And I think I want to tie that back into my first response back to you when you came out is, he said that he was like, I don't want you to think that I'm any different. Like, I don't want you to think of me differently. And I specifically remember what I texted you back to you. I go, Mike, as long as you don't change from the person that I met that I was 9 and everything that I've known about you, okay, besides this, obviously, if you're still the same Mike that I met when I was 9, I don't give a shit. Now, if you change and wind up becoming some piece of shit, then I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Because then it's not about you being gay. You lied to me your whole life, okay? And yeah, you may have lied under these pressures, but now I feel lied to, and I feel like I should feel pretty validated in feeling hurt by that. But if you're the same person and we're still friends, we can still make weird fucking sounds and jokes and jam out to metalcore, and if we're still doing that, then you're still my best friend. I don't care.
Yeah, and I do want to add to this as well that not every gay person will be the same when they come out, because the problem is you hid your true self for so long that, I have a friend that came off masculine and they came out, and now they're kind of like more feminine, and they have like a little voice, a twang to their voice that people always kind of group as a gay man, with that accent that people get because it's feminine, and you're like, whatever, bitch, they kind of that style. And like, they're like, what? You weren't like that before. But it's like, well, yeah, because I'd have fucking hide myself the entire time. But now this is the real me. Are you still going to be my friend? Because this is the true behind the doors guy. I just happened to be like, I kept my true self in life. I just hid that very important detail, but never changed. Like, I was at least comfortable with being my weird ass self and just super weird. But that important piece of the puzzle was like, okay, just hide that one. And at least like you could still be you.
But I will say, having known you in high school, and I really haven't seen you. I don't know that I've seen you at all since you've come out.
I don't think either, yeah.
And just seeing you yesterday interact, the boys came to see me at the bar last night. Always plug Lansdale Tavern. But anyway, just seeing you interact with the boys and just kind of talking to you now, there is like a little bit of a difference in you. And I think it's just comfort, number one, and confidence, which I think comes with age, first of all, obviously. But it's like almost like that little bit of like timidity. Timidity, is that a word? You being timid, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. that kind of came off arrogant a little bit. And it's gone. And it's like, I feel like you just are really,
Well, I think
really you now. And in a very like refreshing way.
I
I don't know if you've noticed that, but
I think it's just like a big weight off his shoulder
Yeah.
because you're
Mhm.
carrying that around for so long, hanging out with the boys and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, like you don't have to worry about that anymore, and you're like,
and you can
You
see
know,
that.
like-
You visibly look
That
like
energy
more
is real.
relaxed.
That
Thank you.
energy
It
is
is
real.
because, you know, and you're exactly right on the money. I was just forcing an extra little flair to my
Mhm.
person because I thought that's what guys were. That's how you get women. I thought,
It
okay,
worked for
if
me, so
if I have to
I'm
play
like,
this
he's a
game,
douche. Let's go.
Yeah, I know,
and
right?
then I'm over
Like-
here taking notes. I'm like, okay.
but that was how it was. It was kind of like my dad used to call me the gentle giant or like the teddy bear because I was like this big freaking burly like broad guy, but I'm super soft inside and caring and an empath in terms of like just so caring for people's emotions and making sure they're okay and happy but like that's in quote unquote would be suspicious like gay, you know, like
It's
I was
also
like,
hard
crap,
to
you
do
know?
when you're carrying that baggage
Yeah,
around.
like, you know, I'm like free. Like, you know, if I'm an arrogant guy, then okay, cool. Like that means I'm straight. That was like how I interpreted it. But like if I showed any side of my true self in a way, like especially when I got drunk, I think people did get suspicious of me, or they just thought, oh, that's just how Mike talks. When I got drunk, I think she came out. You know what I mean? Like the girl side of Mike
Mhm.
inside kind of comes out a little bit when I'm drunk, and that's when I didn't have the control anymore because alcohol kind of disables all your functions. So I was kind of
Right.
like, oh, I gotta be careful. I can't get too drunk tonight because I want to start talking like really feminine with my hands or just get really crazy, and then people are gonna find out that way. I had to worry about all these things every 5 seconds,
Oh
like
my gosh.
constantly, like, okay, the way you walk, make sure you do this, or the way you do this. Like you have to constantly walk on eggshells because someone's gonna get suspicious.
Ugh.
And so like once I came out, I'm like, oh my, like that. I could not believe how much that feeling was. Like the weight is true. It's a real expression. Like you feel this like shoulder tension of like so much horrible dark energy on you. That's just like going to it gets heavier as you get older until you finally come out. And it just so quickly, like you feel like you're floating. It was a pretty incredible experience for sure.
I want to like just comment too before we move into like the next stage of your life.
The positive side.
Yeah, right. Is that like obviously I can't speak to this, and I also don't want to make it sound like I'm generalizing, but I feel like for those people who are looking to come out, I think nowadays your outcome of you coming out is going to be more similar and more aligned to what happened with you than it is the negative. Like you think the world is going to end if you come out and all these people are not going to like you or whatever pressures that you're feeling that you have felt at a young age. I feel like nowadays this is such a big topic now and it's a little bit more accepted. We're not totally there yet, but it's definitely way more accepted than 10, 15 years ago. I feel like their stories are going to align a lot more with you that people really aren't going to care if you're gay or not. And so as a straight guy whose best friend came out to him, 15 years later, as far you come out when you're ready. I don't know what that feeling's like. So I can't, like I said, it's hard for me to speak to it without being, what do you say? Tone deaf.
Yes.
But it's hard to me, but like I said, as a straight man whose best friend hid being a homosexual for so long, trust me, I'm gonna argue the fact that it's more than likely gonna be a positive outcome when you do than a negative outcome, especially nowadays. Do it when you're ready, but I encourage you, confide in someone if you need to, but it's better on the other side because, like I said, once we get into where you're at now, you wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
If, you know what I mean? You wouldn't be what you are, doing what you're doing, and just absolutely crushing life. This game we call, life. If you didn't do what you did, and if you didn't get these reactions, and I think those reactions are going to be a lot more positive.
I hope
Obviously,
so.
Obviously, every situation is different. There are some people who suck.
Yeah.
You're never going to avoid that, though. It doesn't, whether you're gay or straight, you're never going to avoid the fact that some people just suck.
And some areas too of the United States I think we're in a good spot right now, especially recently. Our area, Montgomery County, is becoming much more progressive over time. But
Yeah.
Do you think that living in a different place helped you? Like, would you say maybe as a recommendation, like if you're living in like Utah, like maybe don't live
I,
there?
I
Yeah,
think I think
I
since
would-
you were able to almost like sniper it because you were close enough to be in the same area, but you're far away, like that you're far enough away that you can hit your target because you came out when you were in North Jersey. You know what I
Right,
mean?
but I
Yeah.
meant more like geographically, like are there areas that you would say like having this experience, like do you think if someone's struggling, like maybe don't come out and the shit sticks of Kentucky, like if you're afraid, move somewhere that's easier to come out? Does that
Yeah.
sound dumb? I don't
No,
know.
it does not. No, it's a really good point because one of the crazy things about Utah is something we can talk about.
Oh, I forgot that you lived there, right?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't mean. I just meant like
No,
I meant somewhere like
that
like
was
super
great
rural.
example
I'm
though.
sorry.
That's a great example though because Utah still has 63% of the population is Mormon,
Nice.
and there's 3.2 million people. So if you do the math, I mean it's a lot of. It's like almost everyone's Mormon, and modern Mormons today are accepting LGBT. It's a weird dynamic. You got some Mormons that are super like, fuck, hey, we go to church like every Easter and Christmas like Catholics do. You're not really involved, but you're kind of like, okay, cool, my son's gay, or it's okay, they're accepted. But a lot of Mormons are like, okay, well, it's our duty to love you, but we're gonna treat you like an acquaintance. So you go from being your own blood family to like, oh, like you can come through dinner, but you cannot look like you're gay. You can't bring a boyfriend. You just have to be like the asexual son that's straight and like not, or just devoting yourself to God. And it's very hard for a lot of gay people to find that out about their family that, oh, we still love you, but we don't agree with you at all. And you're kind of like, well, then I don't want to fuck you then, And so we have a problem in Utah where there's a huge LGBT homeless community because of the Mormonism and stuff like that. I don't want to hate on Mormonism, by the way, but I'm just saying the truth. It's just sad to see these poor kids who just are like 17 to 18 and are kicked out, and they only have no one in their own families going to accept them. The church excommunicated them out, so they're not part of that. And they only know the church with how that religion works. So yeah, I would probably not recommend Utah if you're going to come out as gay. Maybe downtown Salt Lake City is definitely becoming amazingly huge on LGBT. Like it's pride flags everywhere. It's really, really cool. And I feel accepted in the downtown, but yeah, quickly out of the city. For any gay man or gay woman that's in the closet, I would recommend maybe going to a city. I feel like any city you go to will accept you. You will find your family, in quotes, like not your blood, but you'll find a family that will accept you and love you as much as you want. It's going to be difficult if you're in the rural area and you're young, you can't leave yet, you're still in high school, but stick with it. And, I would just suggest just any city really to help you on that. I mean, unfortunately, that's the only real solution right now if you are too worried about being threatening or even killed. So it's kind of like it's just difficult. I would say California too. I know every gay person flocks there. I did when I came out. It kind of worked out where I felt pretty accepted out there to be whoever you want to be, and that really did change my life. I lived there for 4 years, and that was a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're fortunate, like I said, your group of friends. I've said it once. I'll say it a million times. Like you boys are just exceptional friends to each other, but this area too, I think, definitely helps with that acceptance piece that Bobby was speaking to.
I actually have a funny story about Lansdale though, because last year my husband and I went to Tex-Mex. So if any locals know that place,
I love Tex-Mex.
Me and Shorty were there with my sister and my cousin, and we met some guy that's from the Bay Area there. So we got like he's like an old local that's always there. And there was like a bunch of old locals because it was in the middle of the day. So usually that's when you see the locals that are retired.
Yeah.
And
the regulars, we call them.
Yep, the irregulars. Yeah. And so he was drunk and he was like, oh, like I want to get a picture with you guys. He's like, can you both be kissing my cheek? He was like a straight guy that was just totally like Bay Area. Like I don't give a fuck. And so in the Tex-Mex, we were like getting this picture done, and it was not cool though. I mean, like every guy there was like not down. And I don't want to hate
them.
I know I don't want the bar was like don't care, but it's the patrons, and that's just typical like this area maybe at times and stuff. Like it's a little rural in spots. It's not everywhere. It's definitely changing here, but it was definitely like really uncomfortable because once we did that to the guy, they were all making fun of him for doing that, and then they were like, oh, that's fucking faggot shit, and then my husband is an ex-military crazy head and hothead at times. If you're mistreating me or disrespecting me, like he won't hold back. And
He'll
so
stab you with a spoon.
you're right.
Like,
That's
so
great.
so it was
That's
like
great.
once I felt that energy, kind of now they know that okay, those two are probably definitely together or they're being like gay and in this bar, and the guy that they all know, they're ragging on him, and so like we had to leave. Unfortunately, I didn't even finish my drink because I knew that something was about to go down.
Mm.
Because Alex he's not from here. He already is triggered by the culture here.
Mm.
So he was like, it's not the time, and so it still happens. It still happens to me today. Like,
Yeah.
but I've changed and accepted who I am, and I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, you can hate me all you want, like whatever.
And to build off of that, I think it's a good time to get into where you're at now, which, like I had mentioned before, is probably the most beautiful state, not geographically, just mindset that you're in, that I've ever seen you in. The state that you're in right now, you're married. You have a job that a lot of people don't have because of
Very fortunate
COVID.
for that, yeah.
Very fortunate. You're living in a beautiful state of Utah. You got a nice apartment. You're traveling. You're out in the woods. You're doing literally everything that I imagined you when I was 9 when I met you. Everything that I imagined you to do, it just happens to be with a guy.
Exactly. That was my dreams too.
Yeah,
Like, it's just everything fulfilled.
Yeah, everything's going well. So, I mean, how do you feel now? Like, what's it like being out of the closet? Everybody knows, and just not giving a shit.
Oh my God. This is a dream come true. I remember when I was about like 9 or 10 years old, dealing with the beginnings of the struggle was like my goal in my life is to like own a home somewhere in the mountains where there's evergreens and pines around, and then there's like a lake at the bottom of the hill, and I'm just with some sexy ass man that loves me who I am, and I'm loving him who I am, and we are just like living this dream of just being out in the woods, and I get to like run away from home and just be with some guy. I used to have dreams about it
I'm
too.
crying. Shocking, I know.
I used to have dreams even of it. Like I would dream that I met some guy in my dream and he was like everything I wanted, and it was like a beautiful dream that I woke up reality in Philadelphia where everyone hates me. It was like, oh God, I definitely need to make moves when I get 18.
Well, to be fair, we all hate each other in
I
Philly.
know, right?
So.
That's the vibe. I mean, come on, like, fuck off.
Aren't you glad to be home? Like, shit.
I know, right? Like, gotta take that Xanax. God. But no, mentally, it took a lot of work. It's still a work in progress to find the true happiness. I think I'm pretty much there. For what everything I had to move a lot. I basically became a nomad, and I moved. I lived in New York and Jersey that we talked about. I'm from Pennsylvania. I moved to California. Realized that as much as I tried to become a Californian, it wasn't working. I just wasn't feeling it. I felt animosity. I felt judged. It was a lot of anxiety. There's so many people. It was just overwhelming. And so I was like, this is still not my goal. I'm not really a beach person. I love the beach, but it was like, this is not my goal that I've had since I was a child. Like, I'm a mountain man. So I remember just randomly getting tickets off Southwest, like $50 deal or something to Salt Lake City, and thought, babe, like, screw it. Like, we loved road tripping. We loved traveling. Like, let's go to Utah. I'd never been there, and we didn't do, and of course I had strep throat. This is like pre-COVID, but I had like strep throat out there, so we couldn't even do anything. Like, we went to Utah, and I like stayed in the Salt Lake City area, and we just like, I like died, like lived on throat lozenges, and we were just like joking, like, wow, I could live here. It's very, it reminds me of Hatfield. It reminds me of Philadelphia suburbs, like exactly, except with like ridiculous mountains in the background. And I was like, yeah, I could see that, but we just joked, and then all of a sudden, we got to 2018, and me and my husband were going through like a crazy spiritual awakening. It was pretty intense, and I figured it out. Like, I just figured out how to do this. Like, how do you cancel? Like, you can like narrow your vision and like just cancel every source of person or any influence, and just like narrow your vision and go straight for that goal. And like, no matter what's distracting you in normal life things, bills, or someone got this, or like someone, your cousin got in like an accident, and then, yeah, that sucks. But like, I focused, and I'm like, yo, I looked at Alex and I'm like, can you ask your company if like maybe we can move or something like that? Cause I'm going to go and bluff at my company tomorrow. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to tell them that you got a job in Salt Lake City and I have no choice. So either I quit, or you guys let me work remote. It's like I gave him an ultimatum. And I was like,
Damn.
yeah, I was just like, let's fuck it. Like, if I ruin my life and crash like a dying star right now, like,
At least
then,
I'll do it in Utah.
yeah, right. I was like, let me just try. And they totally were like, okay, like, let's see if we can do this. And they told me that I could. I went home that day and I looked at my husband and I'm like, we're moving to Utah. And he's like, no way, they approved you to move and keep your job. I'm like, yep. So you can quit and we'll find you a job out there. Fuck it. It might be a struggle, but we have each other. So let's just do it because this is like what I want. This is what you want. Like, let's fucking go. And so we just picked up, I think it was like when I found out that I could go to Utah with keeping my same
It was
job.
like 3 months.
No, it was, I think I booked the apartment without even flying there to see one in like 3 days.
Oh my God,
And-
that gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah, like I'm crazy. I'm a nomad. So like I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like I did all my research, did all my demographics. I figured out all the 7 variables that I do about every state. Between diversity to acceptance to economy to job market to population density to I go all crazy. And I did it in like one night, researched the entire state of Utah from top to bottom and was like, boom, we're doing this. So I found a town outside of the city in the hills I feel like I'm such a bougie bitch now. Like, okay, well, let's do this. So we I think it was within like 2 weeks from deciding we moved. Like I picked up all our shit and traveled across the Sierras and everything to get over to Utah and just like, here we go. And then my husband had to hustle for like a couple months to get a job. But I'm living like the visions I had in my dreams since I was a child. Like it's exactly what I envisioned. And I had to do it just by going over the obstacles and ignoring the outside sources that are trying to bring you down and give you doubt, fear, just get rid of it all. And I just fucking went for it. And it was like, wow, that's all you got to do is just cancel doubt and fear and get your goal. Like that's wild to me. And the journey in Utah has been incredible. We've been there for a little over 2 years. But it's like, I don't think I've ever felt so mentally stable before.
Wow, that's
yeah.
awesome. That's great.
So you're living in Utah now. You're happy. You're living this best life. Okay. And they say happiness is at the end of the road of a struggle. And I know what that struggle was. You know what I mean? That ultimately led you to where you're at now. What does that look like?
It was, I don't want to speak for everyone there, but when I moved to California, it was really exciting. I was a freshly new gay guy. I was dating someone in a monogamous relationship. So it's not like it was like, oh, I'm excited to meet people in terms of a relationship, but I started seeing patterns that, I come from a rural area. So I'm one of those gay people that was not in a city or an accepting kind of environment for it. I had a struggle for so long, and I noticed there was some kind of form of ignorance within the young gay community, and I probably might get hate a lot about this, but it's not everyone. But I noticed that
Well, it's your story, so you can.
Yeah, true. I came from a completely different atmosphere of culture going to California. So it was a really impactful culture shock for me. It was very hard for me to adjust. I come from the woods. I'm cutting wood and hunting my whole life. I'm basically the stereotypical Trump supporting redneck racist like person that people would think of if you initially saw me. I'm wearing camo I'm wearing a tractor hat right now with camo on it. Like I literally like people would be like,
which let's disclaimer, you're not racist, obviously.
Obviously.
Your husband, what descent is he?
Oh, he's Mexican.
He's Mexican. So your husband's Mexican, and I don't need to know whether you voted for Trump, but I'm going to tell myself that you didn't. Anyway.
Yeah. So like it was just going there though, it's a very largely liberal community, and I was kind of just like trying to fit in, but I was sticking out like a sore thumb. I was wearing my Timbs because East Coast.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
baby.
I'm rocking Timbs with freaking camo, and like I just looked so weirdly awkward compared to everyone's like floral tanks and flip flops and high shorts that are skin tight with their bulge hanging out. So it was just really hard for me to be like, what? And I tried, and the thing that bothered me was I couldn't really find anyone out there. There was a few, especially in the Mexican community. There was a lot of gay guys that I would talk to that had struggles because their family was Catholic and they kicked them out or they don't talk to them. So there was that, but there was also this like really large group of people that didn't have to struggle. They were more what you would say as a privileged gay man because they were raised in California where it's not taboo. Everyone at least out there has one family member that's proudly out. And I felt like they didn't take the time to educate themselves on the LGBT history and why they're able to just freely be gay out in the streets. There was like a sense of like it was pretentious, or it came off kind of judgy and kind of snooty, if that's even a word. Like I felt like anytime I was like a real guy trying to be like, let me talk to this guy at this gay bar. He's, we're just in a conversation at the bar. And all of a sudden I get looked down and up. He's like, what are you, like some redneck? Like I've been called like these terrible derogatory words within the own gay community because I wasn't dressed the way they assume you're supposed to dress or who to be. It was,
or how to act, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
like it was.
So they were treating you like you were different from them, even though you were going there to feel accepted, and you ended up feeling more
I felt
weird?
like I was isolated from the gay community, and then also like isolated from the act of that a lot of straight people don't accept me being gay, using religion and stuff like that, or their upbringing. So I kind of was like stuck in the middle here as an outcast. My husband's the same way. And so we were just kind of like, okay, well, like, these are beautiful people. They have beautiful stories, but they've been out since they were 11 and like completely supported by it. And they are just kind of like lost from the struggles and horrifying history of the gay community that they had to go to get these rights, the power they had to do to get through to have the cops not beat them as well. Like it was a large, really scary process, and it's still happening everywhere else in the world. I mean, America's definitely more privileged in terms of that, accepting gay, but it was very accepting over there. And now it's a great thing, you would think, right? And but the outcast gays that had to live in the rural farms that moved to California to find that freedom can sometimes struggle to really be relatable to them. People in California, not like all, but just saying in general, like it's just a different culture. I mean, everyone can freely be gay and just be super colorful personalities and stuff, but we're still dealing with like an internal struggle of being like so hated and hidden for so long that sometimes I felt like I just like whatever, like you're just like internal homophobia or like whatever, like you're just, especially if there was conversations about politics, and we don't even have to talk about politics. It's just if you don't agree with someone over there, like at least when I was there, it's like if I didn't agree with someone and just kind of said that, like, oh, I don't know if I agree with that, it was like immediately like, well, then get the fuck out of my face.
So you're saying because you didn't embrace this colorful, feminine,
Style.
liberal, like
Mhm.
very like left-sided, I guess what you're saying, like the Hollywood perception, if you will,
Exactly.
of a gay man, because you were more, I guess masculine. Is that the right way to say
Yeah,
it?
I guess like, yeah, it's just more like,
I think
I
it's
don't
more
know.
just like since your agenda didn't align up with theirs, you felt outcasted.
I did.
So
and
did they think you were like a fake gay? Like, is that like?
Is that a thing?
And I'm sorry,
well,
I'm
no, they
very
call it, it's
uneducated with
okay.
this.
No,
but
I feel like a lot of gay people get mad at other ones that are kind of like still hiding who they are. And if they can feel that, they're kind of like, can you just be yourself? And I get that. It's like, dude, stop. You're out now. Like, you don't have to. I know it's a struggle because you got to go 20-something years doing this, but you're free now. And there's that support out there. There's nothing like negative about it. It's just, I personally was just like, okay, I can't talk to any gay person out here. I can't meet one that like likes to hunt and fish and four wheel and like do country shit because that's how I was raised. I'm a country boy. So I was like in a city life full of openly gay people as a country rural guy that's gay. So it was just like, I just didn't relate to anything. Like
It's
my
almost as much
interests.
as that community wants to educate the heterosexual community about what they're about. It's like, well, you want to educate them about what you're about. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And in your experience, you found that a lot of them were closed-minded to doing that. It was very easy to just, put the X up. Nope, don't want to learn anymore. If this, and again, I'm speaking generally, and I'm speaking towards your experience and
Mhm.
what you've confided in me. And I remember having these conversations with you while you were in California. I'm like, dude, I think you need to get out. I think you've outgrown the fact that these people don't want to learn anything more about you than what you have to offer on the surface level, and that's not who you are as a person. You're very spiritual and
Yeah.
deep, and you're very rooted. You know what I mean? And I think it was kind of just like some of the people that I met in Florida. You're very surface level, and that's it. And if you don't want to go past that, it's not your area, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
So I think I'm a little confused. So did they see your like the hunting and the wearing camo and stuff? Did they see that as you still kind of denying that piece of you, or was that just something that they were so unfamiliar with they just couldn't
I felt like I mean I have friends out there that like love that about me. Like I had a couple people that were just like, you're just you're freaking just like some country redneck guy. It's a joke as a
Mhm.
friend, like you're just a gay
Mhm.
redneck, and I loved that, but it was just hard. Like if their friends would come around that were super like that judgy kind of like in terms of like whatever bitch, like they watch too much reality TV that they've
Mhm.
become reality TV in
Mhm.
person. So it was like they would like I would like get judged, or sometimes they would thought I was just trying to force masculinity because I used to had internal homophobia or something. And I'm like, dude, I am literally the realest person ever. Please, like I'm trying to just be myself, but you have to give me some room to like. Never met. I didn't grow around gay people, so if you're this is who you are, can you give me a second to kind of like adjust for a minute? And it just seemed like a lot of times that wasn't allowed, or like whatever. And I'm like, what, are you single? And I'm like, well, no. I'm like, oh, well, you open relationship? No, I'm monogamous. And then that's even more like, what? Like, okay, good luck, straight boy. Like,
Wow.
and it's not like I'm talking for everyone out there. It was just that I was getting so much hate from, I had multiple experience of hate, like inward hate of like the community towards me, because it was like, okay, fine. Like, I guess I'm not a fan, like, whatever. So in the gay community, they have like 300 subgenres that you can like pick and choose who you like. So this is something you probably don't know, but you go from like the words of terms of twinks, terms of jocks, you got bears, cubs, otters. Like, there's all these groups, and there's bars out there that literally are designed for that kind of look of a man.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's
Did you,
you
Bobby?
kind of can go
Oh, I
shopping.
know. I went there.
Yeah,
I know.
I took him to what people label me as they call a cub. Basically I'm a guy that's going to turn into a bear because I'm a hairy, masculine, broad guy that's just like a straight dad at some point. And
What
like,
would Bobby be?
he would definitely be on my side as a
Yeah,
cub or
fair.
an otter, like a
What's an otter?
It's like you're more like, I guess you're still kind of like stout, like muscular, but you're a little bit more on the side of like skinnier and hairier instead of being. But I would say he definitely fits probably more like towards cub.
Nice.
And yeah, so it was like they did have that opportunity. So I would go to like the bear bars and to be like, okay, maybe these are my people wearing flannels and boots and going hunting. Like, it's great. But then this is where it got weird because I'm in a monogamous relationship with a man. And in the bear community, it can be kind of pretty sexual. And they're men, like they're testosterone filled men that are like forward about it, kind of really bad at flirting. Men are terrible at flirting, gay or not. And it was just like, it's weird. So I would go to the bar and I just want to like meet some guys as like friends, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get in my pants. So it's like, ooh,
Ooh.
this is really uncomfortable because I don't know how to flirt. I dated a guy immediately and was never a single man. So when a guy's flirting with me, I like shrivel up into a raisin. Like, I don't even know what to do. And like, especially because I'm married and so I'm like, fuck, like I thought I found my community and they just want to have sex every day.
I just feel like I do find it interesting.
Welcome to our life.
I know.
So
Right? I do find it interesting in the fact that, like, when you were in the process of coming out and you're so worried about being accepted and all of the stuff from your heterosexual friends, your family and everything. And you're like, well, here's this community that is supposed to be so accepting of everybody, right? That's kind of the image that is portrayed. And it was almost a polar opposite on both ends, where your coming out experience, you were so accepted by all of your heterosexual friends and family. You're like, oh my gosh, didn't expect that. Then you go to this community and the only thing that you experience is the polar opposite of rejection and feeling, obsolete in these places where you thought you were supposed to be so accepted, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going to go to
confusing.
Salt Lake City, Utah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
just figured like, that was really the driving factor. It was just like, Alex, my husband, was beat down and I was beat down to utter, like, I was just so exhausted living out there. And then every time, like, I was almost like triggered, I was right on the border of explosion to people. So like him and I started developing this whack defensive wall between our own community where we would go out to the bar and we already knew what was going to happen. So it was like, okay, let's try, maybe not, like, maybe we'll be good. And then we get in there and immediately something like triggers, like someone says something to us or someone looks me up and down and gives a dirty look. It's like, I'm going to beat that guy's ass at this bar right fucking now because I'm trying to fucking enjoy a drink with my community and I'm already getting like judged and bitched at, or like it's so frustrating, Katie. Like,
That
you have
is
no idea.
wild.
And so I was like, I don't know if I can survive another week here. Like if someone does it again, I may be in prison.
And
Like,
then 2.5 weeks later,
yeah,
we're in Utah.
And in Utah, it's in 1993 right now. I moved there for the reason of being in 1993, where it's like kind of they're like behind the times, not with gay rights. I think there's a huge issue right now in Utah where there's like anti-gay because of the Mormon community. But it's changing and it's trying. It's like almost like I'm able to go back in history now and see the struggles that that California never saw since like 1960 or 70, 80. And like, so we're just like, Utah's going through this progression and I get to watch it and be a part of it and lift people up. And we've met so many wonderful friends out there within the community. And it still has its quirks. The gay community has a lot of trauma. So there's nothing wrong with emotionally reacting or being very defensive. It's just that's how we are now because we were like criticized and ridiculed our entire lives. So we're kind of fragile. And but out there, the ones at least we've met and the people we've been around, it seems to be a little bit more. We're in a town now where it's a struggle to be gay. So everyone's struggling. It's not like they have been gay their whole life and they're like, whatever, like I've been 3 generations since there was hate. So like they don't feel that, but out in Utah, it's a struggle to be gay and you're very close to each other. The whole community is still like, we need to stay together in order to get our rights. And that's why I kind of like was attracted to it. I mean, other than like beautiful nature every 5 seconds, but like, that was my sole like drive too, was to be like, well, I want to go somewhere where I can finally like feel like a country boy, but also be close to a city where I can still be like a city swag at times, but I get to like quickly 10 minutes away, go back to my woods. Like it just had everything I wanted and what I wanted to be. So it was just like, that was the part. It was difficult. And I wish there was something better to educate the community about the history, but I mean, hey, that's too much energy. I'm just tired.
I do want to circle back because we talked about this off air a little bit, and I kind of want to get into just a little bit more. The piece that you spoke about trauma and a lot of gay people, whether it's men or women. It's an interesting piece that you had brought up before about a lot of times gay people are perceived as being very defensive and they're quick to react and they're quick to get offended and sometimes I guess maybe I don't want to use the word dramatic because as a female that's a triggering word for me.
We're a little extra, yeah. I can admit I am too.
But
so.
You had and we were talking about this and you said, I know that I was, kind of judged by my community, but it's hard for me to get upset with them because of this piece. So can you kind of walk us through that, what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, it's like, what I've come to learn is that if a gay person gets really triggered or I know now, like, because I'm one of them that, okay, well, you're very passionate about something and it's something that is really deep and dear to you. And if someone's like being kind of ignorant or kind of rude to you, it goes from 0 to 100 really quick because I feel like all of a sudden all that trauma just like throws up out of your mouth and you just want to like spew all this craziness and you react. And sometimes it can be perceived wrong because a person's like, whoa there, like, what's wrong with you? Like, calm down. And sometimes you just have to kind of understand that like we're all just in this together, just in different storylines. And I wish we could all just like still come together and not get distracted by the media and trying to like poke fun at us or trying to like divert us and distract us and stuff. So.
I think you've done a really good job at like if something happens that triggers you as far as something that offends you about being a homosexual, you've done. Growing up helps a lot. 2, I think you just, the person you are, you're really good at just taking a step back and taking a big deep breath and going, how do I want to respond to this? Because we talked about it yesterday. I'm not in control of your emotions and I'm not in control of how you decide that you want to respond to something. If I say something that offends you, you can either get really, really angry and react out of emotion and have a negative approach to it, because that is the negative approach. Or you can sit back, like I said, take a deep breath and go, how do I do this? How do I educate this person to thinking a different way? Or do I decide to just not? You know what I mean? And I've seen you do that. I've seen you go, you know what? This person's not even worth my time. It's not worth my time. Then there's other people where you're like, but take a step back. Think about it this way. And you're like, oh, okay. he's right. Mike is right. I never thought about it that way. And I just want to commend you. You've done a good job at not reacting out of emotion, even though we're Italian and
I know,
that's what we
right?
do. You know what I mean?
That's exactly how we
So
are.
like, but you do a good job of that. You sit back and you're like, you know what, if something even within your own community or outside your community, whatever, you're pretty good at just going, you know what, before I say something back, let me think.
It's been a journey because I was kind of that hothead. As soon as I read something on social media is dangerous because especially
Preach.
the comment section, oh my God. And I remember the National Geographic posted a video or a picture of these two gay Ethiopians from Africa, and it was like a storyline on them on the Instagram post, and like the entire comment section was anti-hate, like anti-gay, like what the fuck, I thought this was fucking nature, like not this gay shit, and like everyone is like hella hating, and I'm reading it like an idiot,
Yeah.
getting so worked up that I ruined my entire day. And like my husband would come home from work like all like, hey, how's your day? And I'm like,
Fucking
like
hate you.
why are people hating me? I'm a nice person. And it's like not even directly at, but I had to realize that a lot of people that just hate themselves and are going through a time in life that they are struggling themselves. So it's like, wow, that's really difficult. It's like psychologically to condition yourself in order to be like, when I see someone hating me for being gay, like they definitely have some issues. Like we all have them. So it's kind of like, okay, you're just trying to project your hate to make me get a reaction so that you feel validated that, cool, I made that guy feel like shit. That felt so good. You know what I mean? Like, do you know when you're in traffic and someone cut you off and you want to make sure that they know that you cut them off? So like you get that validation of like, yeah, bitch, like you give them the finger and like, so that's how I've kind of taken the approach in life now, to be super peace. I just want internal peace and calm. And that's I just kind of like let hate bounce off me now. Just like, whatever, like I don't give a fuck. Like I am living my dream. So like if you're hating on me, then it's like, well, I'm sorry. Like I really hope you get some help. Like, that's my response. Like it's not even, I don't take it personally anymore.
I'm sorry you're so angry.
Yeah, like that's exactly how I am.
I just think it's interesting that you brought that whole piece of it up, because I've had this conversation with people in my life about we talk about trauma all the time on this podcast. I would say last episode, especially childhood trauma. Like everybody grows up with it, whether you think you do or not. Gay, straight, whatever your life looks like. Your parents at some point have fucked you up. Something externally probably happened to you that fucked you up, and you grow up with this. Everybody has something, whatever that is, and then you add the whole hiding yourself your whole life if you're a gay person, and that's a whole other set of trauma on top of it. So I always try and tell people when I'm talking to them about this kind of thing, like think about you and like the worst thing that happened to you and the thing that really hurts, and then think about that being 20 years of your life, and then like that wound is like poked at every single day for 20 years, like that, you'd be on edge too, you know what I mean? So it's like, not only does the gay community have to overcome that piece of it if they are in a place where it's not as accepted, but then they have to go through that piece that you're talking about, where it's like, okay, I'm moving past this, and now I have to not let it hurt me, see it for what it is, and then maybe educate someone on it or be empathetic to it. Like that's so many pieces that you have to go through that a straight person doesn't.
I
So
know.
like,
And it's crazy because I mean, even though I'm in a happy place today, me and Alex never show public affection, or we are kind of still worried to hold our hands. I mean, I struggle with that still, and I shouldn't care, but it's also a safety feature that you still have to do in your life as a gay man. I've been out for years and proud, but holding his hand, I mean, I can't tell you, it does trigger me a little bit seeing everyone staring, and not in a positive way. There's some few that are like, oh my God, but
in your guys' defense, 99% of the time that you guys are spending with each other, you're hiking up the side of a goddamn mountain. So you don't really want to be holding hands with somebody.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
so true. It's so true. But yeah, I just feel like everyone needs to kind of take a step back and not react. And especially if you want to educate someone, the issue we're having with that, especially if you're gay and try to educate a straight person, it comes off condescending or like angry, like, well, you should know this and you should it's like, okay, you're like humiliating me in public right now. No one wants to feel like that. No one wants to feel stupid. So it's like, don't make me feel stupid if I don't know. Like, just be really kind about it and just be like, look, I know, like when he did that, oh, how did you know, when did you know you were gay? A lot of people would be like, fuck you, you know, like, what do you mean? Like, it's not a choice, dude. And it's like, okay, sorry. Like,
I don't know how to ask this question.
yeah, like I just didn't know because I've known you my whole life. I'm not sure like when this happened. I just want to know like when did it click and stuff. So that's when I was like, well, when did you find out you were straight? And it's like you don't even know how to answer that question. It's just like it came. It just showed up one day. So yeah.
I just think it's great that you're in a beautiful place. And I think it's a good time to give you kind of a closing argument, like we like to give our guests, a closing argument or statement. If there's one thing that you want one person to take from this episode, what would that look like?
You're a beautiful person. You know, you need to love yourself. If you can't love yourself, then you really, you know, I'm going to quote a RuPaul quote right here, but you know, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love everybody else? And you're going to go through a lot of hardships and things. I just really think that stay strong and you're loved and you have people in your life. If it's not your family, there's people out there that will take you in and make sure that you're just as loved and what you deserve to be loved. We're all beautiful people. So as much as hate in the world, jealousy, envy, all the 7 sins of the Inferno, you know, you just have to kind of ignore that and follow your heart and go with your goals and find that peace. And it doesn't matter what you need to do, get to it as fast as you can.
Beautiful.
That's how it's done. That's probably like one of the most beautiful closing arguments that we've had thus far.
I know that was mostly aimed at those who are probably struggling with their sexuality, but I felt it too. So thank you.
Yes, everyone, please. Everyone.
So anyone who's struggling with any kind of issues like this, are you open to them reaching out on you on social media? Do you want to plug yourself at all?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely open to talk if anyone needs any help or just advice. I'm all here for it.
All right. Do you know your Instagram handle?
Yes, it's a novel, but yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
My Instagram is at @mmaturin_DiDomizio, and I'll spell that one. It's at MMATURIN_DIDOMIZIO.
That was hard to follow.
And that was the rest of the alphabet.
Yeah, like I don't know if anyone's going to pick that one up.
Nah, they'll just get a notepad out and write it down.
Yeah.
Or they could just follow us on Instagram and then follow Mike.
Oh yeah, true. Exactly.
Also true.
Thank you, Mike, so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for letting me talk about my life. So.
This is a long time coming, and I thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it as a friend, as a brother, as a confidant, as any other adjective that you can describe our relationship as. You know, so thank you, Caitlin. You have a little bit to discuss real quick before we close out. So do you want to fill everybody in on that?
Yes. First, I would like to shout out Bobby in pointing out that we are human beings, Bobby and I. And every once in a while, you work your ass off and you get tired and you need a break. So with Mental Health Awareness Month coming up and the upcoming release of this episode that we have discussed with Jake Lors and Joel Chandler, we're going to take a break next week, guys. We have a lot of great stuff that we're looking forward to bringing you. And in order to deliver it to you guys in the very best way possible without completely fucking losing our minds, we're just going to cool it for a week.
Yeah. And good thing that this episode's extra long, so you can split it into 2 weeks. So
Yes.
you can use
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.
Yeah, right.
I talk too much.
Yeah. So we are going to take a break next week. I just think I hate to say it to you guys, but fuck you, we deserve it.
And it's worth the wait. It's gonna be worth the wait, dude. It's a great episode.
Yeah,
I left that episode after recording it so inspired. Like I thought about things that I wanted to do my whole life and just was like, yes, I'm doing them. This is it. So guys, get pumped. We got something good coming for you. But until then, we won't see you next Thursday.
We'll see you the following. Love you.
Love you guys.